Sorry. I was like,
Have you met Teresa?
Yes,
no.
we did
No, we
meet
have,
one other
sorry.
time. We did meet
Oh,
one other
yes.
time.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
You look lovely.
Thank you.
Today or in general? What is
Well,
this?
I think maybe she's saying, "Oh, you look different today." So
Exactly.
no, she's recognize you. You look so lovely.
So what I told Teresa is that let's just go online, of course, because of the factor that these social media platforms, you should go live on time, otherwise they think the event is cancelled. So we're live, and of course, thank you both of you to come in. We'll have other people join us. Francesca might not be able to join us. She's got a flu, but she says not COVID, but it is a flu. So that's what's going to happen. But her session would have been really interesting because the work that she does in music and mediation, I really found that really interesting. So that.
Oh, I'm sad. I would have liked to hear that.
Yeah.
Same here. I was looking forward to that, and I haven't seen the one that you did with her, Vikram, already, right?
No, this one I haven't done with her.
Oh, you haven't?
There
Okay.
was someone else had organized that, so I was in that.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was really interesting. But Teresa, I was telling you that you should be part of the symposium also. Heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation, I'm sure mean a lot to you. So you should be part of it. And Andrea's here. So Andrea was obviously she's part of the symposium. Yesterday it was her session. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, how are you?
And Andrea, that's Teresa, that's Lisa. Teresa is in Florida. Lisa is in Ohio. I mean, is she in Dayton or not? She'll tell us whether she's there. And Andrea is in Rio.
Oh, nice.
Right. So that's
Nice
how
to
it
meet
is.
you.
Nice to meet you too.
So basically now we have Kathy and Constança to come in, but doesn't matter. What we can do is, Teresa, why don't you just tell us about yourself, and we'll just start because Constança is also here right now. Maybe you can say hi to her and then maybe we can take it from there, I think. Because Kathy, the thing is that, I don't know, she should normally would be on time, but so let Constança connect, please say hi to her. And this is the only thing that takes time for the audio to connect. And yesterday there was someone from Paraguay. Her audio from the laptop didn't connect. So, hi, Constança.
Hi,
Good morning. Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, good morning.
Basically, Andrea and her are colleagues, so obviously they know each other. So, Constança, that's Teresa and Lisa.
Nice to meet you, Teresa. Welcome.
Yeah, Teresa is in Florida. Lisa is in Ohio. Constança's daughter is in which place, Constança?
I'm in Rio.
No,
both Andrea and I.
Your daughter, is your daughter somewhere in the US where you went?
No, she's in Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay. So she has a grandchildren there. So she is a grandmother. Yeah. Yes. So perfect. So Teresa, please, you can just tell us about yourself as much as you want to, and then.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Yeah, Teresa, please.
Okay, so I am in Florida, as Vikram said, and I am a psychologist by training and spent most of my professional life working alongside various court systems here in the Orlando, Florida area. And although I enjoyed a lot of the work that I did over the course of several decades, actually, I really wanted to work more and more outside of the court system and working with families primarily to find their own resolutions and solutions. And although I'd been certified as a mediator also for several decades, I really wasn't doing a lot of mediation and just made a very deliberate effort to shift that. Took me a number of years. You get known for doing a certain type of work and you have to learn to say no to that type of work if you want to create space. So I just started saying no a lot, and that created space and opportunity to start to say yes to the kind of work that I want to do. So now I do exclusively mediation and collaborative process. Collaborative processes primarily in the family arena. And I also do a good bit of parenting plan development and co-parenting consulting to help folks resolve problems there. I also do some training and teaching, which I thoroughly enjoy, and that serves to keep me, I think, sharper and read the stack of journal articles that gets too big, and but it nudges and pushes me to make sure I stay up on the thoughts and ideas that other people have, which I really enjoy. So that's all I feel the need to say.
Okay, perfect. So Lisa.
Okay. I have been around for a long time, I guess, but I started mediating in 1996, actually to be a better cultural trainer, because I'm also, I also work in the intercultural communication field, helping people adjust and work through different cultures. So I took mediation to help me in that process, realizing that there's a lot of conflict, and then I got hooked. And so I've done a lot of work in community mediation and all different models and all different types of mediation, because in the community, there's all the different types of mediation. I also work in restorative justice. I'm a restorative justice practitioner, and using different models. There's a lot because I'm just always into something. I'm also really big on dialogue, because I think our skills as mediators does well in dialogue, and I love using a dialogue process. But in addition to that, I really love using creative processes, because I think that really what we do as mediators is open up the possibilities for creativity and creative problem solving in all of the people we're working with.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, Andrea.
My name is Andrea. I'm from Brazil. I'm a lawyer as my first profession. I used to work as an in-house counsel, but after a while, I started to look for something that could help my team, the company I worked at, to solve the problems in a collaborative way. I started to have the idea of using a strategic lawyer mind. So in some way in this path, I discovered mediation. It was 2010. And I did my first course, and I love it. So I decided to change my career. So I decided to leave the company I worked at and started to work only with mediation. In the beginning, it was very hard, especially because in Brazil, people didn't talk about mediation in the corporate sector. But it was a very good journey. I met Constança in the middle of this journey too, a lot of good people. So now I work only with mediation in corporate sector. I have my own practice, my firm, and we use now online mediation, and we try to use a lot of kinds of innovation here. So I'm very happy now.
But I have to get the pronunciation right. Andrea, not, and I'm saying Andrea is Andrea. Okay, that's for that, right? And of course, you can know more. You can get to know more about Andrea in her session, which was yesterday in the symposium. So she's spoken about herself. Yes, Constança.
Well, very excited to be here again in your living room, I should say, and among people such as Lisa and Teresa and Andrea, my partner, and going backwards. It's been 6 years. I've been certified as a mediator. At that time, I was only a lawyer, a very unhappy lawyer, because when I decided to go into law school, I was trying to mix both of best worlds I've been at. Previously to law, I had been a hotel executive for almost 30 years. And that was a very impactful experience. But for personal reasons, I had remarried, and I had started to have children again. And I had to make a choice at that point, whether to struggle with the hotel routine and all the traveling, etc., and to go to a new career where again I could have both the best worlds. So I decided to go into law, but I realized right at the first beginning that that wasn't what I was looking for. But still, I made it through the end. And right after I graduated, I had this invitation to join faculty of this university where I still teach law up to now, and this has been already 12 years now. I've been teaching there, and through my teachings, I started to get in touch and study and go through the discussions of the new Civil Procedure Code that was just reformed 6 years ago. And among all those contents, there was alternative dispute resolution methods being talked about. And I said, perhaps this is the way I should pursue. This is the route, is a escape route. And bingo, 6 years later, we had, 6 years ago, we had the code, we had a mediation law. And by that time, I had already gotten my mediator certificate. And right after that, I met Andrea as among other colleagues and fellows, and we found out at the very beginning that we had a lot in common, because she has this entrepreneur vision of mediation as a service. And all I needed to find out at that time was someone that could understand what mediation as a service can be conveyed to society, because I had all these means. I had tested and practiced all these means in my hotel business career. And I thought that mediation as a service could be practiced in the same way. So that's me. From there on, it's been already 6 years. Andrea and I have been working together. We have conducted several projects, and lately we are engaged in the digital world because she's also a fan of online and automation issues. And that's me and us at her company now.
But Constança, we can't see the T-shirt properly. Please tell us how, because she's so passionate about this, that Mediators 360, that's what it's called.
Yes.
So that's a passion for the whole thing.
And this is part of our entrepreneurship project, because we not only talk about mediation, we try to connect mediation services to marketing, branding, to innovation, and sell mediation, the mediation service in a new way. And in this sense, here in Brazil, and mainly from Rio, that's where we work from. It's a platform base. Now, we have lots of mediators talking about mediation services and mediation practice, but in a very conceptual, in a very abstract way. And we all struggle to convey this message to society, because sometimes, people tend to get our word as true. Okay, mediation is okay, we can experience it, but they don't know in concrete terms how it works. So we have to sell it the same way we sell a product, any other product. And we've been talking about this already, Vikram, in our previous sections. This is, I would say, Lisa and Teresa and everybody else, this has been one of our major challenges right now. How to sell mediation as a service to the marketplace, to society in concrete terms, So we do branding, we do marketing, we do not only, we do things like this, you know, because we want to be present, we want to be physically in people's mind. You know, we want to be helpful somehow. And perhaps Andrea can talk about the concept of the T-shirt, because she practiced running and cycling, and that's one thing that she was very concerned about. And this has to do with our user experience focus on mediation. And when she designed the T-shirt, she had in mind that even the fabric had to do something with running. So she had a dry fit type of fabric, made the T-shirt of. And I let Andrea talk about it.
The idea of talking about
Go
the
ahead.
T-shirt was that basically you live mediation. That was the whole idea. But let me also tell everyone about Constança. She was part of the symposium, last symposium, and she said in her lifetime, she wants to see herself practicing as a full-time mediator. And that's what I kept repeating session after session, that Constança is the person for me where when she can practice as a full-time mediator, then I've done my job. So that is what it comes from. The other thing was that the last symposium, Raphael called it the Woodstock of mediation, because of course there were 97 speakers from 45 countries. Constança has renamed my activities, or named my activities, the Disneyland of mediation. So thank you very much. So what we'll do is we'll take,
because up to then, when we had our first sessions, it was a one-shot deal, but after it became a permanent project, a lifetime project, then it's Disneyland, because it's always there. It's a lifetime project as well. And I have a lot of fun when we are together, when I participate in your sessions, and that's why it's Disneyland.
So that's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we'll go to Disneyland now. So Teresa is sitting in the land of Disneyland. So Teresa will, so Teresa, creativity, innovation, and mediation. So please. What does that mean to you?
So Teresa, so,
Teresa,
you know, obviously I've been giving this a lot of thought, knowing that we had this event coming up, and also sort of immersed in it because the other part of my work, which is the collaborative law process, is connected to this year's World Creativity and Innovation Week and Day, which is today. So I've been giving a lot of thought, and trying not to get too complicated. So for me, when I think of creativity, I really just think about an opportunity to see things differently, to hear things differently, to wrap our cognition around something differently than we're used to doing. And from there, it flows to, so when we apply that to a challenge or a problem or a difference that needs to be bridged, then we have the opportunity to say, is there a way to generate ideas or options or outcomes that wouldn't typically emerge in this type of difference, this type of, challenge or obstacle or conflict? How can we think and feel and experience this conflict in a different way, so that we begin to open our minds to some other possibilities and opportunities for some sort of change? And then mediation and collaborative and other similar processes that bring together not only the participants, as it were, the folks that are caught up in that problem or conflict, but people like us that would like the opportunity to help them move through that conflict situation. Then when you put folks together, then there's the opportunity to create synergy, so that we can build off of the creative ideas about the same conflict that start to emerge, that is different than sitting by oneself or sitting with the other participant in the conflict. Now you're sitting with other people, and whether those other people are how I think of mediation mostly, because that's my current sort of cultural experience, which it's a formal process, it's a business, or whether it's a different scenario where someone's acting as mediator that might be a family or friend, you still start to, again, have that opportunity for synergy, where everybody is building off of one another's different way of thinking about something. And when the one difficulty, and Vikram, I think you've some things that I've listened to, perhaps is one of your concerns, that as mediation becomes a job or an industry or a work, do we lose sort of the mediator mindset, or some of the pure conceptual pieces that mediation offers, and how do we keep that balance? And definitely in my area where I have the opportunity to do a lot of mediation, I most definitely could be a full-time mediator. Here where I am, where mediation is a well-known process within the culture, so I have that luxury. But Constança, I'm sure I butchered that. I'm in a similar experience with collaborative law process, where we're in this, mugs and T-shirts and, this really different experience of this is not part of the culture, and yet I'd like to do some of that work. But over in mediation, I'm a bit spoiled because I have the luxury of there being a lot of mediation going on, and people ask for it. You're not having to do the same level of sort of educating and marketing. And they ask for it sometimes, with lawyers and sometimes without lawyers. So it's a process that's readily available. And I know that's a really different experience than some people have the opportunity to have. So, how do you hang on to kind of the magic in mediation within this structure? Because sometimes people come into mediation in the world, the way that I see it and do it, they come in and they want their settlement, and that's what they're here to do. And they just expect it to be here are the things we have to solve, let's get it done. And we have this limited amount of time. And it doesn't lend itself to, I think, the types of context that often promotes a lot of creativity. So for me as a mediator, then I go to how can I help the participants and both the client participants and the professional participants be open to this concept of creativity? Because fundamentally for me, mediation is inherently creative when it's set alongside litigation, right? It just inherently creative to say we're not going to be constrained by a decision maker, nor are we going to be constrained by the outcomes of law, by the statutes in the state of Florida that say judges can handle it this way. So once you're not constrained by that, and it's completely open to any way you wish to solve a situation, that to me is inherently creative, that openness. But how do we not shut down that creativity? And how do we open people's minds back up to the creativity that can be in mediation? And to do that, for me, some very basic things. These may sound kind of boring, but they're basic, and there's some, I'm not a neuroscientist, but there's definitely some research coming out about creativity and this concept of an aha moment and what really seems to happen in our brains. And it's some basic things. It's having sort of traits or learning, openness and curiosity. It's preparation. It's letting your mind have space and time and opportunity to think about possibilities. It's laying the foundation of having information to build upon. It's having periods of rest. It's having enough time to come back and revisit a prior idea. Brainstorming as many as you can, and then come back and revisit the possibility of a particular item. And all of those very simple things that sometimes don't happen in my world of mediation, where again, I have the luxury of getting to do a lot of it, and some of the ways it's been shut down in terms of what the potential is. And so how do I, prepare with clients and with professionals? And sure, two quick examples and I'll give the floor up, but I had two mediations this week that went very, very differently. And one was an all-day mediation Monday, and we didn't have any resolutions that the clients walked away with. But at the end of the day, one of the clients who's really gotten himself in a bit of hot water with some behavior, he left that mediation appreciative because he felt heard and he thought about things in a way that he hadn't thought about them before. And when his lawyer left, what she said was, you know, this actually was a very valuable day for us because my client got an education today. And she also said something similar. She said, I really saw him think about things in a different way than he has before. And so, however you define success, there was no resolution, but that was movement that's going to help them move along, I think, at some point to some resolution of conflict. Yesterday was totally different. We had this super well-prepared lawyers. They had an agenda together. They prepared their clients really well. They sent them to me to do pre-mediation meetings without them. So I have an idea of the issues. The lawyers understand the client that isn't theirs and really seem to understand where they're coming from. So they set the stage really well for this mediation, but we had this long list of difficult items. And I must admit, going in, I'm thinking, I don't know, I just don't know how we're going to get through this long list of items. And so I'd really encourage them to pare down and to prioritize, and I want to have my meetings. So we had 3 hours, and in 2.5 hours, we were concluded. And embedded in there, without getting into the details, we had some unusual or different or creative thoughts that popped up totally because of the synergy of all 5 of us. But the mediation yesterday, I don't think had anything to do with really me as a mediator, other than my presence and setting a different space for them to come together. Because the work, 90% of it, was the preparation that had happened to give everyone the opportunity to come and have an open mind to possibilities that they weren't thinking of and wouldn't have thought of had we not had that space and that time to spend together. So
Teresa, what I did not mention was that this was your idea, doing this, that something should be done with the World Creativity and Innovation Day. You're the one who suggested this. So thank you very much for suggesting
true.
this.
Thank you, Vikram.
So Lisa, do you want to take us through
So
creativity?
yes,
Yeah.
and building on what Teresa said, because I have a firm belief that when we are in conflict, we're in a closed system. We're internally focused. And creativity requires that we become open and externally focused so that we can let those ideas flow. So what we do as mediators, and what you gave us a perfect example, is like setting the stage. Those things are things that actually help people move from being internally focused to externally focused, where they can be creative. And a lot of the research on creativity is showing this. If we even look at emotional intelligence, for instance, there was a research project done, and they had somebody's brain, wired up and tested the brain. And they sort of gave, in one group it was a coaching experiment. In one group, they gave them direction or said, maybe you can do this. And their brains didn't move as fast. But when they said, what would you like to do, or reflected it to them, they started to open up. So those processes and some of the things that we do are natural things to help people open up to creativity. It's just that we don't know that's what's happening. So, I mean, I feel like we need to think of that as it is a process. There was some mediation yesterday as well. I didn't do it, but one of my friends who's a lawyer, I've been telling her for years, you need to use mediation. She finally did it yesterday. It was a landlord tenant. She had been working on this case for 1 year, never been able to get any kind of movement. And all of a sudden, she said she couldn't believe it. At one point, they said, that's it, this is not going to work. And they were about to leave the table. and then somebody put a proposal on the table, and then from there, the most creative solution flowed. And that was where the landlord said, well, just work on my car. You know, it was beautiful. But it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the mediation process, if it weren't for being open to the possibilities. I've done a lot of work outside of it's not really mediation, but using my mediation skills and facilitation skills to work with groups of scientists. I worked with in an organization called Idea Connection, and we bring scientists together to do creative problem solving. And it's amazing how, of course, one of the reasons they use facilitators is that scientists have these egos, and oftentimes when they're working together, conflict arises. So by having a facilitator in the process, it helps keep them flowing towards creating a solution. And I won, several of the challenges. I even know about agrobacterian tumefactions now. Because I learned a lot of science. I think it's amazing. We don't understand how these processes can open up new ways of thinking and attitudes. And so I'm very stimulated by that. But some of the other things that I do, like if I'm doing a divorce mediation, I've asked people to bring a collage of their children, so that the focus becomes child-centered. What it does is prepare them to not think in, okay, what I want, but think in what's going to be best for the child. So just a little art project to have them come to the table with a collage of their child really makes a difference. I've used in group conflicts in the community, I've used Augusto Boal. So maybe some of you have heard of the Theater of the Oppressed. I've used some of the exercises in theater to help move people from being impasse, to help them open up some creative solutions. So I've used poetry and a number of those processes. It's, for me, I think we forget that communication doesn't happen just in words. We know as mediators, we look at body language, but remember that art is also an expression of feeling. And using art, getting in the mind of the arts, all different kinds of arts, helps us open up a pathway to communication. And that's what we're doing as mediators. We're trying to find ways for people to see each other, for people to get those communications. So using arts, using all of the processes we have that help us get messages, I think is very important.
Yeah, perfect. And the two people who would have taken us through that are not here. Francesca on music and mediation, and Kathy on poetry and mediation. They're not here.
And by the way, I have a great exercise on music for educational purposes. I don't like to use training because Vikram will go crazy.
Okay, so now Andrea, please.
It was very nice to hear Teresa and Lisa experiences. Here in Brazil, we are, as Constança told, we are still having the challenge of making marketing for mediation, make people know about mediation. But since 2016, we started to work with technology and online mediation, because we worked with the dispute system design for the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. So we started to study technology, and we dived in this field. So it was very interesting. I was hearing Lisa talk about the scientists. Here we were working with the tech people from tech world. We started to try to bring a lot of things that we learned there to mediation since 2006. So we started to work with agile methods. We started to use a lot of design. Now we use legal design for our mediation agreements. We started a course of mediation where we use mind maps. A lot of things that we learned from this tech world, we brought to the mediation setting. So we believe in this, that it helped us with the use of innovation and creativity in mediation, especially because people became very, it's like something that they bring some humor, colors, music too. I was talking with Vikram yesterday that we started to use music, videos, some apps like word clouds and some wheel of names and this kind of thing to make a different dynamic, because mediation is already something that is creative. But when you need to use it in the online setting, you must use more creativity because to bring people attention, because they are coping with the conflict. At the same time, some people are uncomfortable with this technology setting, at least here in Brazil. So we try to have some humor, color, music, things that make the moment a little bit lighter. So that's the thing we are using here. It was interesting to hear Lisa also talk about something that here in Brazil we have a mediation law. So we have a framework to work with mediation, but we also here in the company, me, Constança, and the other people here in the team, we try to use some hybrid methods or some different methods where you use the mediation skills, but you adapt. You can use the mediation skills, but use it as looking for the user necessities or the user experience is something that we are studying a lot here. The user experience, what the user wants, what it's better for this setting, for this group. So we use not only mediation as the law bring to us, but we try to use creativity, mediation skills, negotiation skills, communication skills, and try to bring to our clients the best channel or the best method to solve their problem. Their problem or a group of problems, because we work a lot here with this dispute system design too. So we study the conflict, we study the user, and then we develop this system or the best option for them. So a lot of creativity all the time.
But you also have to talk about the innovation in terms of your online platform and online whatever you're doing. So you'll have to talk about that also. But let's get Constança in. So Constança, please. You'll have to maybe creativity in terms of us understanding you without you unmuting yourself. That creativity we don't have. So you'll have to unmute yourself. Creative ways to understand people. Lip reading, yes, one of them. You'll have to unmute yourself, Constança. How do we go ahead?
Try. Okay. That's another challenge, because I wasn't born in this generation. I'm learning. Yeah. Now, we're talking about new ideas and new ways to convey mediation as a service, but we have to take into consideration that it doesn't. All these efforts, they don't make sense if we don't train, for instance, considering from the user experience, perspective, the lawyers. And now I speak as a law professor. It's been 3 years now that our Ministry of Education has passed on a norm, a resolution, which makes ADR a mandatory subject into the law school programs, graduation programs. So this was a very good start for us in the meantime, because Teresa, luckily, we're as Brazilians, and we're very flexible culturally speaking, we're picking up quite quickly, and we use the US experience as one of our, let's say, preferred experience, internationally speaking. And Andrea and I, for instance, we have the opportunity to be sharing great mediators in the United States lately, and we can tell this is something that reassures us that we are going the right way. And now going back to the universities, if we don't get lawyers aware of how good it is to be a lawyer in the mediation setting, we won't go forward. You know, so as we have for the last 2 years, and this is the case in the university where I teach ADR, and I have just implemented 2 years ago the ADR department in our university. This was a very good head start, because now we still face some resistance, not like in the States. People don't ask mediation services if we don't offer them, okay? But on the other hand, we're making progress as far as the education of these new lawyers is concerned, because they're already getting this through the ADR subject while they're graduating, this experience. And this it's very wary as a teacher and but it's been paying off, because within the last 5 years I've taken my students to compete in mediation and arbitration competitions, and this has become as we go by very popular. But linked to this, to the fact that mediation is ADR is a mandatory subject. So things are starting to make sense, you know, and it obviously requires not only creativity, because we do a lot of role playing with the students, and but the main challenge when we are in the classroom with the students is to break their resistance, because somehow they're very skeptical, even when we consider that, for instance, in my university, this subject is allowed for them to enroll in from the middle of the course on. So we assume they're already mature, intellectually speaking, to absorb these contents, but they still resist because it's something very new. But again, it's creativity working towards promoting mediation and the education of this user, this priority user regarding the law community, such as the lawyers.
But Constança, you do know that on my shows, you never ever use the A word, as I call it. Arbitration is not used here. We don't even talk about it.
Okay, I forget that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Apparently training
Okay.
isn't either, according to
No,
Lisa,
it's
so
not.
you're
No,
not alone,
training-
Constança.
Training and arbitration are out. Training is like training a dog. We don't do that. We
Thank you.
educate.
Just erase that part of my speech, okay? You just edit. You have my permission to edit my
like
speech.
Teresa was saying, I'll have to put a list out of all the things, or the do's and don'ts.
I'm not
You
allowed to
should
say.
have it. It should be, okay, if you're going to be a guest on my show, then you have to know Do not use these words. I
Thank you.
actually have it. There was a professor who taught my daughter poetry, and he had a list of words that you should not use in a poem, like sweet. And I remember that I purposely wrote a poem with each one of those words, and he liked it.
So basically, you were always a rebel without a cause, kind of thing.
You have to
So,
be a rebel. What fun is life
with the
without having
cause.
a little rebellion?
With
No,
the cause,
don't need
Lisa,
a
with the
cause.
cause.
Just be rebellious. That's so
Okay.
But
creative.
it's a good cause anyway. It's a good cause. Anyway, very good cause.
But Teresa, from all what you heard also,
You know,
and you want
Lisa,
to take this
excuse
forward.
me.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
had
Constança.
we had this motto when I was in the sales business within the hotel industry, and I was the sales director for most of the time. And we had this saying that salesmanship begins when the client says no, because that's the same challenge that you
That's
had
it.
about the poetry.
But
Hey,
Constança,
I
we'll
have
come.
that challenge with youth when I'm training young people, especially the difficult kids, because I work with kids who are on probation and
Mhm.
training them. If I get them to participate and enjoy what they're doing when they're in probation, I feel like, yes, I did something. I
Yeah.
got them to talk. Come on, that's a skill.
Yeah.
But Constança, from your experience in the hotel industry, after this, I mean, when I come back to you, you have to take us through what lessons from there you can use here and what you've seen in terms of similarities and all. We'll come back to that. But Teresa is going to take us from what you've also heard. Please, anything else that you want to take us forward on the
Well,
creativity? Yeah.
there's so many options. And actually, I was just picking up the last thing that Lisa said about these youth who are on probation and just getting them to participate and enjoy. I have to tell you that for me, in mediation, the client participants, the same thing, just getting them really to fully participate, to speak for themselves, because even though we have people asking for mediation, they have notions about mediation that are very closed, right? My lawyer's here to speak for me. Right. And it's going to be a terrible day. I'm sick to my stomach with anxiety. I'm not suggesting these are not, of course, it's really big decisions to be made, but really being able to get them to settle into this as an opportunity. Sometimes by the end of the day, we joke about whether they enjoyed it or not. And occasionally I actually I did, but that may be a bit of a reach, but at least being able to get them to fully participate is a huge gain. And sometimes that takes a level of creativity, right? You feel like you're, like jumping on one foot, rubbing your tummy, patting your head, juggling at the same time, just to get them to fully participate and be present in the mediation. So I would actually love to hear more about some of, what Andrea, what you all are finding out about user experience. What have you learned about what the users are telling you they need, which of course, Constança goes right back to a lot of your sales experience as well. And also this piece of, what are the obstacles you're having to overcome? I can still use the collaborative word, but that's going to end up probably on Vikram's list. But because I'm having a similar experience, I teach a law school here. I'm not a lawyer, but I teach with a lawyer and a judge. And where the experience we're having is the law school students are completely open to this. They let go very quickly of their other notions about what family law has to be. But it's the lawyers who have been practicing, where we do trainings, education, that it's difficult to get those folks to shift to a different way of thinking. And so, it's kind of interesting to me that your students actually are having a little bit of a difficulty settling in to this ADR sort of thing. And I would love to also hear maybe how all of you are using some of the creative, how are you introducing to your participants role play or the collage once they're there, and do you get 100% compliance with that? And how are you introducing the use of poetry or music? I think that might be it'd be interesting for me. It might be really helpful to some of the people that are listening, if they're not already including that in their mediations, to think about, how they might do that.
So, Andrea, you want to take us to something that you're doing? Hey, Andrea. again, I think the creativity in terms of lip reading, I think is something which I'll have to pick up. Andrea, we'll have to get you unmute yourself. Without that, we won't be able to move forward. We can, I mean, like I'm saying, we'll be able to learn over
Sorry.
time.
Sorry, I'm always doing that. And yeah, regarding creativity, as I told you, we are using a lot of apps, use a lot of technology. We are working with a lot of brainstorm now here. We are studying a lot of this legal design of visual law. We are using a lot of design here, a lot of videos to help people to understand what is mediation, because sometimes we work with dispute system design. So we must invite a lot of people at the same time to come to negotiate or mediate. So a way we understood that could help us to explain what is mediation, because in Brazil we have this step to explain what is mediation. We started to do a lot of videos where we think we can humanize, we can give a face when you explain, because as we work sometimes with big groups of people that we must invite, because especially after the pandemic or during the pandemic time, we had a lot of contracts that were breached or broken, especially at the real estate area, at the travel agencies. So a lot of people during this time discovered mediation and tried to have collaborative agreements or consensual agreements to solve the problems. And we work a lot with colors too. We studied colors to bring a soft space in the platforms. But now we are very slowly come back to presential mediation here in Brazil, presential meetings. So we are now working to use part of mediation in a digital setting, part on presential mediation. That's our challenge now. So, but the creativity we are using is a lot of design now. We are investing a lot in design to help people to understand things or to make the setting more light or more soft. That's the thing we are investing now. And also in these methods, like I said, agile, try to have brainstorms in a small space. Some of the methods we learned in this technology environments.
But Andrea, also tell us, because you obviously believe in aromatherapy and mantras, how are they fitting in? I know, I was just going to say that.
Buy here today essential oils, but it's only for me. But when I have the presential mediation, I try to put some smell that can help people to be more relaxed, more comfortable. I like music too. I was listening before our meeting. Here we are studying a lot about how the music can help people to become more relaxed, more open to negotiate it. Here we use, I like mantras, and we use also a list of musics that this year, or last year, some group of neuroscientists, they made a list of 10 musics that they prove that can relax and make people more friendly. Maybe I can use this word. So we try to put music before the mediation. Even when I have my teaching, my classes, I put music while I wait the time to start the classes. So we are working with this kind of things that can help people use the senses. We were working too with people who are working with blind people, because blind people have these senses, more ability to use the other senses. So we had a program here with blind people too, that they can help us auditors choose other sense, and I believe they can work, they can be a very good mediators, especially when you have mediation by telephone, because sometimes you must use that. We had experience here in Brazil too, where we had to call people to mediate who didn't have access to computers or platforms, and they live in a very far away places. So the way to have this mediation with them was by telephone. So for me, it was a challenge to mediate without the body language, the face language, only with the voice. And so we started to study how we could use other sense, how we could include other people that could make a better work probably than me, with the sensitivity to understand only by the voice, the tone of voice, how the person in the other side was thinking or feeling. So we are working in this kind of things to work with all other senses, so smell, colors, music.
Well, that's important. But now, Constança, to get her back to unmute, what will it take, Constança? So tell us about your sales and that experience in the hotel industry. How are you using that in mediation?
To be very comfortably, because like I said, Andrea and I, we've had the chance of experience and shadowing great mediators in the United States, and that's how they take it. And perhaps Teresa knows what I'm trying to convey. You know, mediation as a service requires a very high degree of sophistication as far as the training is concerned, but it all comes to the expertise of the mediator. But they have a special way of conveying the services that we haven't yet reached here, this concept. And I have no hesitation in selling mediation services the way I've seen the people in the United States and across Europe. And perhaps, I don't know your Indian experience, but in Europe, in Italy, our friends from Rome, they treat mediation as a service. And that's the way I think we should take it from now on here in Brazil. And we have to work. If we're going towards this direction, we have to use the adequate means to that and resort to marketing and sales techniques and adjust it to the service, whatever it is that we are trying to convey. And like Andrea and I, we're very concerned about this user experience perspective. Who are our clients? Where are they? Who is bringing? Who is participating in this user experience, whoever the client is? So I take it very comfortably. And sometimes we still hear our colleagues, they frown their nose when we talk about selling mediation, when we use this concept. Because it's something very, very, you can sell mediation. Well, we can sell mediation services. And so when I go back to my previous experience as a hotel executive, I see nothing wrong about this challenge, this project, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah,
And when we started using the digital platforms, not only in Mediators, our company, but in general, Brazilians also resisted very much to the idea of automation coming into this very subtle concept of mediation, because it would, in a way, take up from the very essence of mediation, that is the human aspect. But we never disregarded or disconsidered the human aspect from the automation. And I remember one experience back in 2017, I went to this ADR seminar sponsored by one of our mediation and chamber in Rio, and we went to NYU in New York, and we had Colin Rule as our teacher. And he was telling us about his experience at eBay and later on at Modria. And he showed us, he demonstrated one platform that he had developed for this, I guess it was an Australian law office that was used for divorce process in a digital environment. And we were all very, not shocked, we were very surprised to learn that, such a sensitive issue was, at that time, was not only being taken to the digital world, but it had been successful, according to him. And more or less, and as we go by from there on, that's what we've been trying to copy and paste Brazilian way. Have our Brazilian, made in Brazil mediation way of practicing ADR.
Mm-hmm. So now we have to look at innovation now. Lisa, please, you are a very tech savvy person. So tell us about the innovation that is happening. Don't go by her age, okay? Don't go by age. She's very tech savvy. She's like, you said generation.
I'm tech savvy. I'm at my physical age, maybe up there, but my mental age is very young.
Yes.
I connect very well with teenagers and young people, and they recognize the youth,
Yes.
even though they don't see it.
Yeah. So tell us about innovation.
It's about, and to answer Teresa's question, when I'm doing it, I put it on the table as an option, because I don't want to direct people, you should do this or you should do that. I want to say there are lots of different ways you can express yourself, and you can use these different artistic formats. So for me, that's what's important. And innovation, to me also, when we're working with that, is really just opening people up. I feel like one of the skills we don't talk enough about is that skill of non-judgment. Mm-hmm. And if you really hone the skill of non-judgment, you invite people to open up and share. And because it's judgment that shuts us down. We're afraid to say it. Like in a brainstorming session, as soon as you have one person say, that's not going to work, everybody shuts down. It's the not everything can work attitude that opens things up. And it's the same with mediation. Everything can work. Everything's on the table. Everything is possible that opens it up. And I want to share a poem that was written by one of my participants. But I have to say that I want to have a disclaimer. This may be slightly graphic for, young people. So if they're young people, turn it off.
Now you just told them that they have to listen. Now you just told them that.
Okay. So this is something that someone had written. Why does she do that? Haven't I said it a million times? Don't provoke me. Didn't I warn her? There, in that point, I cross, body trembling beyond my control, adrenaline rushing. For Hercules fights. I hate how she controls me. And then she says, close the door. I don't want anyone to see me now. Eyes puffy from crying. Why? I don't understand. The reasons are forgotten. The memory remains. The way he pushed me against the wall, threatening to destroy my womanhood. And then that tie on my neck, the look in his eyes, that wild, furious bulging as he pulled it tight. I relaxed, as if I had not a care in the world. A wonderful feeling. I was gone for a minute, only to return lying on the floor, looking up at his face, still in uncontrolled anger. Funny, I realized. I was never wrong. It was not me that caused it. I stood up, walked away without a sound as he yelled at my trail. The look in my eyes said it all. There would be no more for today, no more any day.
That's yours, Lisa? That's your poem? Is that yours? Or so you
This is someone that my people wrote.
Nice, nice. Yes, okay. So, but what about innovation, Lisa? You were going to tell us about innovation. You work with scientists and everything.
That process is also the same thing, because scientists will shut each other down. So when I was talking about having that openness, you know, as a facilitator, you let people really let the ideas flow, get them to brainstorm, use it in those different ways. And then it is because creativity really unlocks our inner child. We are, you know, that if you look at a scientist, this is what I loved about doing it too. If you see a scientist in that moment of innovation, they're like little kids, like, oh, this can work and that can work. And like they get really, you know, I get these chemists talking about, you know, mRNA or no, I think biologists talking about mRNA, and they get really excited. I have no idea what they're talking about, but they're excited. And it's that childlikeness. And they're like, well, let me try this and let me try that. That's what creativity is. It's our inner child. We're all creative by nature. We're all born to be creative. So when we can open that up in some way, and we open it up by that acceptance, and we open it up by listening, we open it up by all these skills that we have, but also I think sharing part of that, knowing, you know, that that is a part of us. And that helps to really open up innovation and new ways of thought. So for me, I think that's important. And those are the skills that we all have as mediators, because either we're natural at it, Vikram's, and that was what we were born to do.
You'll take gripes at me all the time, won't you?
Or we learned it was challenging Vikram's point of view, or we learned it at some point in our lives, but whichever.
But now, okay, what about technological innovations? And anyone talking about that? I mean,
isn't that the same as scientific, technological? It's all the same. I mean, like I think I have observed in my own children. We gave my son a computer in high school, and he went out and learned how to create images and do all and start animations and images, and all of that is very mathematical and scientific, and I don't know how we figured it out, but it was giving him an open door. We have to give people open doors. It's like, that's what we do in mediation too. We give you an open door to think of something new. If you get for technology too, it's an open door to think of something new, not to shut something down. We have, our safeguards, right? But open door to think of something new and try it out.
No, I was thinking, Teresa, is there more towards the, what about artificial intelligence, machine learning on that side of things?
I am not the best person to ask about that. So I'm admittedly not up on that. And, for instance, Constança, you're referring, I think, maybe to some of these innovative family law programs where parents are working, for instance, on their own parenting plan under the guidance of a mediator, and they're doing it through text, or they're doing it through email, or within a system. I don't have experience with doing that. I've only attended, lectures on those processes. I know that, when you look at the concept of access to justice, there are some other countries that are doing a better job by using artificial intelligence of within the court system, triaging cases and being able to make predictions about cases that might be best suited for certain processes. So I only know what I read, and I suspect, Andrea, as she's referred to systems several times, may have a better sort of insight into some of those innovative technologies. So
Actually,
I really don't know much about them.
Actually, there was a technology that that was developed in Canada, and it used to be called Smart Settle. I think it's changed, and it was for negotiation, and it was a great tool. And it used this process so that you could decide, that both the sides could decide, and they could rate where they were. And it really did help open up different ways of thinking about a negotiation. It's a great tool. And there's also now some tools for mediation where you can do the same thing when you come to the settlement part. You can use those kinds of tools to help you, because what it does is help you weigh what's important to you. And it doesn't shut down. The one thing I liked about it, it doesn't shut down something new on the table. Anything can be put on the table. It helps you weigh, though, when you have to decide which one you want to choose and how you want to choose it. You can weigh for each side, what will be in your interest. So I like that, because that helps it really does help sometimes give you a visual of what's important to you, or give you an opportunity in that weighing process. Because a lot of times we're trying to figure it out, but we can't weigh what's most important to us unless we actually do that in a systematic way.
So Andrea's going to tell us. She's working on the online platform and a lot of other things. So Andrea, what is happening on innovation in relation to mediation?
Yeah, here we started to use the artificial intelligence in negotiation setting, because here, as we work with complex claims and also with small claims, because in Brazil we have this culture of having a lot of small claims because of the kind of law we have here. So we start, as we have some clients that you offer a solution for all kind of conflicts they have, from the small claims to the complex claims. So we offer the possibility of use artificial intelligence. We have some projects here, but use it for negotiation. When you don't come to agreement in the negotiated automatic negotiation, you can offer for these people the mediation. We started to invest a lot of study and resources to develop this artificial intelligence, but when we have this pandemic time, we saw that we need to invest in more humanize this digital setting. So now we are we stopped this program, but we will start it again now. But only for negotiation, not for mediation. So we use the artificial intelligence to invite people to come to negotiate, to explain that we have this a program for normally for debts, for telecom debts, this kind of things, that we have volume, a lot of problems at the same times. With the light company, the concessionaires, I don't know, Constança helped me. We have public companies that offer the lights,
electricity.
It's not private. So, and we have a lot of 10,000 cases per month. So you need to have some kind of automation to cope with that. So you have the first type of of talking with these people that they have a problem with the payments or other kind of things. So they have the opportunity to have a agreement with the machine. But sometimes these people have some kind of individual problem. So you can send them to mediation, but only the people who didn't solve the problem with negotiation. And we have a lot of problems with people that don't understand their problems. So the machine helped them to understand that they have a problem with the contracts, that they don't have light, for instance, in some moment in a neighborhood, and this kind of small things, but not for the entire process.
Okay. So, Constança, you want to add something to that? She does. Yes.
As to this mass litigation that we face here, which is a historical process, another challenge that we're facing here, besides trying to convey the platforms as a service, is the fact that Brazil is a very big country, and we have this problem as far as digital inclusion is concerned. Not everyone has good or even direct access to internet. So we're still trying to cope with this geographic fact and the present limitations, but we have come a long way already. You know, most people have this mindset of trying to tackle the conflicts at the earliest stage possible. And if the platforms are made available, they go for it.
Actually, Constança, in the last symposium, Colin Rule was talking about how even people who don't have smartphones, some kind of a platform has been created or is being created that they can use their normal phones. I mean,
Yeah.
and then maybe through, I don't know, through SMSs or whatever, how it works. I don't know what that platform, how it works, but they are working on that so that wherever people don't have that connectivity, maybe they can get access to technology or benefits of technology.
That is true for us here.
Yeah, so
that is true for us. We're going further and further slowly, but that is true for us. We mentioned Colin Rule, and again, Teresa, going back to family issues. Once back in 2019, Colin has this Innovation Week, and I participated, and he was also presenting this, what we call, it's a digital platform or an app similar that allows divorcing parents to share child custody and all related issues, up to a point that it's not only restricted to the parents, but to all those people who relate to that specific child or children. up to a point that in this app, everything, all the records are included, such as medical records, school records, whatever, just mention it. And everyone that deals with the children or the child involved has access. So wherever the child goes, the app goes, and everyone is made assured that the child will be well taken care of. And now we're working with this concept here. I'm not aware if we have already an app or anything related to this in Brazil, but we're already working with this concept in family issues in Brazil. We sort of imported the sharing concept, shared parenthood, that you people work with in the States. And now we're working with this here in Brazil as family issues are concerned. And this is already a development. So I would guess that most likely the way that Brazilian experts are following up the technology issues, will pretty soon have something like this to work with, to offer to our clients.
It's really helpful because we use it in Ohio, and what we see is that it takes away that layer, especially if they're in high conflict. They don't want to share, okay, you get the child's records and you don't want to share it with the other parent because you don't want to talk to them. But if you can use an app, you take away that level of discomfort and everything's on the app. And it really helps parents, then they're not complaining, because that's one of the big complaints when we get visitation complaints, because they come back after the divorce 4 years later because they're fighting over not sharing of records and not doing all that. So if they use that app, it takes that away and really helps them be better parents.
Thanks. I really appreciated that you're sharing this update, because I have also, we deal a lot with family issues, not only strictly in the family mediation, but also family business mediations, and it helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we do a lot of
Actually,
visitation.
one of the platforms here, there's three main ones that I know of, and one is built from again, I'm not a technology person, but it was built as an app, built up from, and the other are online software programs that have an app that you can use. And so they do function differently. One of those has been working on a pilot project with some folks who are working on our elder caring coordinator project to move from the co-parenting of children to working to enhance the platform. The early stuff worked okay. They've got to make some adjustments, but to use that over in families who are have conflict around an aging family member, that bring them, to our guardianship or probate court after the fact. And so, same sort of concept, where they're trying to use those apps to give those family members a place to share information, to set up visitation schedules with, mom or dad, and to have a place that everybody can log into, to be able to have some less conflict laden, I'm gonna say conflict free, less conflict laden communication. So like Lisa, we use the co-parenting apps in my area regularly, but the new one that I'm sort of anxious to see develop is over in elder law, because I think it could be really helpful there, and that would be very innovative. And often in mediation, we're talking about those apps that are available. What we sometimes run across, or I sometimes run across, because sort of a side thing that I'm passionate about, is this concept of access to justice, or access to justice services, that you struggle, you run up against these folks who don't have smartphones, who don't have all they have is a phone. And like you, Andrea, I've done some phone mediations and other services, and I don't enjoy it. I find it really hard. I like the more robust, this doesn't bother me at all. And of course, being in person, but phone, I find difficult. and other people don't, which is great. But, really thinking about, how we provide services to, because even some of these programs and apps, they cost money and you need a smartphone. And so you can't really effectively use them if you go to upload your document and 20 minutes later, even if you do have a smartphone, the kind of service you have just can't pull up that medical document you're trying to pull in. So we're still struggling a little bit here, and it's sort of plus minus with mostly in the pandemic, some of the access programs that I work in have taken a leap forward, because we were able to pull providers from around the state to work with families, people who have done their whole divorce on an iPhone. And so those people that have that technology, it's been wonderful, because we've been able to provide services they wouldn't have been able to access in the same way. But we're still struggling to leave out people who can't even afford that or don't have access to that service. So
well, this is what Colin was also talking about in the last symposium, that when you're talking about people for whom everything is happening on a phone, so why not divorce on the phone and all those things that it becomes part of your life. You just use it as naturally as you can. So yeah, Lisa.
We work with people. I mean, when I work with people coming out of prison, they are people that are not comfortable in this format. They are more comfortable on a phone. But I just also was thinking, because one of the things that I have noticed is, like, when I'm working with scientists, for instance, they do not like, even if we're on a Zoom call, they do not like the visual. In order to get into their mind and help that creativity be stimulated, they need to shut down the visual so that they can work in their minds. And the visual actually takes them away. They get distracted. And so I have meetings with them where there is no visual at all. It's all conversation. And I find that also in a mediation, sometimes in a phone mediation, I can get a little bit more creativity and interaction when we go to that level and think of it in terms of stimulating ideas. It's a little bit more difficult in the beginning, getting people to be comfortable and trust, because trust is the issue. And we use the visual to help us build trust. And so without the visual to help us build trust, then that openness doesn't come. So it takes a little bit longer to build trust in the conversation. And it takes a little bit of skill in using our voice modulations to help people feel comfortable. I use a lot of techniques to try to have people feel comfortable. I mean, one of my skills is really letting a little bit of my own vulnerabilities out there, because that builds trust. That if I'm too formal, that creates a barrier. But if I can, introduce it and add a little bit of informality, a little bit of, that, and even show my own vulnerabilities, that helps open up the door. And that part, like I said, takes longer in the phone with no visuals. But then once you get to the creative part, it's much more expanded, because they're not hampered by what slows us down. It's that judgment again. We're looking at people's body language. If I don't have your body language, I don't have to worry about being shut down.
But Andrea, what kind of innovation you think we need to have? How do we have to innovate? Let's look at the future now. What kind of things do you feel should be done?
I believe in looking for the future. I think we will use more artificial intelligence, even for mediation. Use more data, something that I didn't mention before, but we are trying to organize data to help people with future decisions. I believe that, and maybe we can come back to the old things. I believe people now are in need of being in person, in touch. something like that, maybe.
But I think Andrea, what you have to also shock us to tell us how many cases are there in courts in Brazil, how many cases are pending, how many cases are filed every year, because with those huge numbers, a lot of innovation is required to get those out.
Yeah, because we have a lot of kind of conflicts here. So here, even here in Mediator 360, we have a lot of kind of specialists because we have these small claims. We have in our courts now almost 100 million cases, and we have also the cases in administrative setting with tax. Now people are predicting a lot of disputes regarding the protection law, the data protection law, because now we have data protection law, and a lot of discussion regarding the people's data. So, and we have also this kind of disputes in the schools now, after the pandemic time, a lot of problems with the teenagers in the school because the teenagers are very, with a lot of anxiety, a lot of problems with the relationship because they spent almost 2 years studying at home. So we see here a lot of this, all kinds of conflicts. So we need a lot of creativity. So we need here, I believe in artificial intelligence for volume and small case. We are developing here also some kind of techniques to work with teenagers, with schools. Here in Brazil, we have a lot of people engaged in soccer. So we are developing a program for the soccer schools with small children or teenagers, using the techniques to help them to solve their problems after the games, something with restorative techniques. And yes, it's a country with a lot of conflicts, with a lot of party, but a lot of conflicts too. And there are a big investment of the government to sensibilize or to engage people, encourage people to try to solve their conflicts before they go to the justice. Because this huge number of lawsuits, it's incredible because Brazil is a big country, but in a country with 200 million people, you have 100 million lawsuits. It's one lawsuit for each two persons. So it's a huge percentage. So we have the government investing in law for people to use mediation. We have now a new law for bankrupts that they stimulate people to try to solve or organize the company or the problems of the bankrupts privately. So the innovation now is with the law stimulating people to try to solve their problems with the private companies, with private mediators, and also use technology, if you not for the entire journey, for some parts of the journey. So to invite, to educate people to understand what is mediation, what is the problem, to have data to show people what are the best decisions. So I think we have a lot of space here to work and to learn with other cultures, how the people in the other countries are coping with the same problems.
So Constança,
I
now
have
you're
to
ready.
get the-
Yes, I know. That's why I was saying if you want to just
No, no,
give your
it's okay. No, no, I'm just gonna-
concluding kind of
No,
thing.
no, before, I know I messaged you already about our next meeting, but I have, like Andrea mentioned, we have a lot of space to work with and to be creative and innovative as well. But definitely, Teresa and Lisa, I'll give you the credit from now on, but this elderly app, elderly sharing app, will be definitely one of our issues when we work with the apps and the automation, whatever virtual and digital world is concerned. But thanks again for the contribution. I was very excited to learn about it. And as far as I'm concerned, I had never heard about any initiatives on this field around here. So thanks again, Vikram, for having us here and sharing this opportunity with people like Teresa and Lisa, whom I've already met before. I'm a close follower of Vikram from the early beginning. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us.
Yeah. So now just concluding anything, Teresa, you want to start? Just whatever.
Well, let me say first, it was really fun to hear what's going on in Brazil and to hear your passion, combined with trying to use, systems and collect data and really think about user experience. And so maybe that's the last thing that I'll comment on is where I think we still really, I don't know the data, and maybe Lisa does, about, number of lawsuits given the population, but what I can tell you is in the largest, where I sit right now in this particular county, in family law at least, every year for many, many years, somewhere between, right around 85% of all family law cases have at least one unrepresented or pro se litigant. And so what that says to us is the user experience, so when we talk about service and lawyers who want to make a living, the user experience for the folks who are going through that process is not positive. And so as we've tried to think about how to change that, the goal is to think about, because I happen to think lawyers, it is complicated to get through divorce here in the US, at least from a property, a financial, and a co-parenting perspective. And lawyers are extremely helpful to folks who are trying to go through that process. And so how do we find a good user experience for those who can afford it and provide services to those who may be struggling? And so, things like mediation and collaborative and other processes are imperative, I think, in looking at and understanding the user experience. And I'm going to tie that back to the sales thing, Constança, because when I think about, I'm going to use maybe some different words. When I think about making sure that we educate lawyers and clients about opportunities for other ways to resolve disputes, it is in some ways being able to talk about the user experience piece. So yes, it's here as a service, but it's understanding how does that service that you're providing, that you're very passionate about because you understand the value, how do you convey that value to the lawyers, and how do you convey that value to the clients so they can sort out how does that match up with what I'm saying is important to me? And if the match is there, they are going to, over time, seek that service. And I think fundamentally, when we're working on projects here, we're trying to, because what I know, at least over in collaborative, where my situation mirrors yours a little bit more, I don't care what advertising medium you use, primarily they are unsuccessful in selling those services. I think it's something different that has to come into play. But it's something that we're still struggling here with a bit. And so anyway, those are my closing comments. It's been delightful. And Lisa, thank you for the poem you shared with us. I really appreciate that. And it's just been great to have the conversation. So as always, Vikram, thank you for your tireless efforts. I'm convinced there is no sleep that occurs in any 24-hour cycle for him. I'm not quite sure how he does it. Maybe he's some, I don't know, maybe some artificial intelligence.
Who just does,
yeah.
Who
He's
keeps doing
really
this?
a video. We're in a video game, right? So I don't know.
You know that
Thank
someone
you.
has actually created that basically you're in a meeting and that little video they upload for you and that keeps moving and everyone thinks you're still there. But
Right.
also, okay, let me tell you also in terms of statistics in the US, there are 100 million cases which are filed in courts every year for a 300 million population. So you're as bad. You're quite bad.
Thank you.
But also let me tell you that we have, I mean, there was someone who from Argentina who's into theater and mediation. So I am having a session with him on the 11th of May. So if you people want to join that, I'll ask Kathy also. Kathy sent an email right now. I don't think she wasn't feeling too well also. So we have poetry and mediation, music and mediation still have to happen. I'll ask them also to come on the 11th. So let's maybe talk about that on the 11th. So because a lot of it got missed out in this session. So thank you, Teresa. And let me just, Lisa, you want to just kind of a concluding thing?
Well, just, I mean, for me, I like I said, I think the whole process is a process in inspiring creativity, and that we as mediators can do that in so many different ways. And I am going to give a plug for a colleague I'm working with, Virginia Swain, because she's worked with the United Nations in helping build some channels of dialogue by using art, having them draw a picture of what their vision is. And they don't even have to be artists. And it's amazing that they accept it. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that project, because for me, it opened my eyes to see these diplomats willing to do this, and then how different they approach the problem when that's on the table. So for me, having arts as part of the conversation, having that become part of the conversation, I think is a plus. It enhances what we do. It doesn't supplant it, but it enhances it. And I think also all of these new platforms are something that are so important. For me, again, you know, my experience, especially with divorcing families, is that when they go through mediation, it works so much better. They'll even come back to me after a few years if they have a problem. They have a much better time and get along better as parents than those who ended up in a conflictual divorce. So the less we can do to create that conflict, but the matter, of course, always is it fair? So I think we also have to add in that process the assurance of fairness, because that's what happens in our court. We're worried about what's fair. But okay, that's it. I don't know what else to say except
I'll
go
tell you.
out and go forth and be creative.
Okay, please understand, Lisa, whenever I say give your concluding remarks, you have to start thanking me. Like Teresa said, all the good things that I'm doing. You have to understand that's the signal.
Wait. I did it wrong. Wait a minute. Let me go back.
That's
Now, wait a minute. Vikram, it has been so wonderful to be here. And you are the most amazing host. Actually, you are. I love to tease you, but thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you very much for always coming in, and of course all of you, but let Andrea also give her concluding remarks if she understands.
Andrea, you know what you have to do now.
Yes, Andrea.
Thank you a lot for the invitation, Vikram. It was a great time to be here with everybody, to meet Teresa, to meet Lisa, to hear about their experience in the United States. And thank you very much. With my friend Constança, it was a very good afternoon for us here in Brazil. It's noon time.
And we'll continue, like I said, we'll continue this discussion on the creativity part, definitely on the 11th. So thank you, all of you, for coming in. Teresa, always nice talking to all of you. Lisa, Andrea, Constança. So I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.